Good evening, Don Palayo here. Today is Wednesday, June 25th, 2025. Uh, got home this evening. I did my work day today. I'm a little bit tired. I did my door dashing in the evening, and I have came home and ate dinner, and it's about time for bed. um, about 9 o'clock, so Eastern time. um, what I thought I would do today, and I'm thinking I'm going to do a few episodes this way. As I've told many people before, I do work in the finance industry, financial services. I thought I would talk a little bit about because a lot of Americans right now are under a lot of strain and a lot of stress. Talk to some basic principles of personal finance. Many of you may have heard of Dave Ramsey. I think a lot of his principles are good. I do think that I do kind of make some tweaks to what he recommends, but uh, just kind of general principle. He starts off with baby like what he calls baby step number one, which is setting aside $1,000 in cash for an emergency fund, for a temporary emergency fund. And while I think that $1,000 is better than nothing, I think everyone's going to have to maybe mold that first goal to themselves. For me, I felt like before I did anything else, I wanted to have 2,500 in cash set aside in case anything ever came up as a basic emergency fund. Um, so that was kind of the number that I use, but everyone could be different. If you've got, I mean, I live by myself. I don't, I don't have kids here at home. If you've got a family, and everything going on, you're probably going to want more than that. You may want to set that number at 5,000, maybe even $10,000 before you really start hammering away at some of these other goals. It's important to have that emergency fund set aside in case some kind of craziness happens, a car problem or HVAC system goes down, or so many different things can happen. It's just that, and they're all very expensive. These HVAC systems are no joke. When I had to replace one, uh, gosh, probably I don't know, 12, 13 years ago, while I was in Florida. I mean, this was like 2012, 2013, and it was around $7,000 then. It's gone up, it's almost doubled since then. So it's no joke. Life's pretty expensive out here. If you're a homeowner, So depending on your personal circumstances, I would craft that emergency fund just for a basic emergency fund. That's not even a fully funded emergency fund. They typically want you to have 3 to 6 months worth of living expenses for a fully funded emergency fund. Um, for me personally, I want to have 5,000 liquid in cash in the bank, which will be one layer of my emergency fund. I have two more layers beyond that. I have a second layer, which is which I is in like short-term bonds, paying a little bit more interest. It's still relatively safe because they are ultra short bonds. I'm earning a little bit of interest there. It's pretty safe. I don't have to worry about it so much. Then I keep about another 5,000 there. I want to keep another 5,000 there. Um, and then what I consider my fully funded emergency fund is $25,000. 25,000 for me is a fully funded retirement account, fully funded emergency fund. So the remaining 15,000 I'm willing to take a little bit more risk with, even though it's in an emergency fund. So I use blue chip stocks for that. Dividend paying blue chip stocks. The remaining 15,000. And I just keep that there, try to get a little bit more growth, but also, just keep the emergency fund, keep it growing a little bit. I don't want it to be all in cash, earning nothing, that much money. Um, so I like to have a little bit I'm willing to take a little bit of risk with that money. Um, we really need to be focusing on our debt. I think that right now, that is the primary thing people need to be focused on, is whittling down the getting bills off. Go through your budget. Go through your budget. Find expenses and bills that you can eliminate fairly quickly. Start with the smallest. Dave Ramsey does talk about the debt snowball. That's what I did as well. I'm a pretty big believer in that. I think they talk about the debt avalanche. So there's kind of two systems of thinking. The debt avalanche mathematically is actually better. However, the debt snowball is easier to stick with because you get victories and you start seeing those things fall off, and it really does give you some encouragement to see those bills falling off, those smaller ones, and then your payment starts growing, and you're hitting these bigger bills with bigger and bigger payments, and they start really coming down quite quickly. I'm getting ready to get one big payment off of me. Probably the end of July is what it's looking like. I'm kind of looking forward to that because it's $800 a month that I've been hitting that with. That's paying extra. That's my total payment that I've been throwing at it. And it'll be falling off in July. And then once I have that off, I'm going to really start building up my savings a little bit more. I'll be able to allocate more to savings. I'm going to take a portion of that and throw at my student loan. I can't believe I'm almost 50 years old and I still have a student loan. It's ridiculous. We do need some changes in this country. I was listening to some people talking about, this New York just elected this mayor up in, and he's a little bit of a Democratic socialist a la Bernie Sanders, kind of a similar Bernie Sanders AOC type person. Look, people are frustrated. People are stressed financially. And anytime when the benefits of capitalism are not flowing to enough people are going to start to turn to these other systems. And for a good little while now, the real bulk of the benefits of capitalism has been going to businesses and business owners. And average people are not really getting a lot out of this system. They're just not. They're not getting, the workers, and so I understand it. People are not really benefiting from the capitalist system right now. Not as many as need to be. I think, until more people start benefiting from capitalism, we're going to see more and more people turning to socialism and other systems. I'm going to tell you right now, socialism typically has not worked. I don't think it has ever really worked. You listen to some of these policies, and it sounds like elementary school kids came up with some of these policies. It in a perfect world, sure, everything would be free, and it's like, look, you start raising taxes on a certain group of people, those people are going to get up and leave. They're not going to be punished. They're not going to be, bullied and into all of this. And especially people that have options, it's like they think that these people that, millionaires and billionaires, they always talk about the millionaires and billionaires are just going to sit here and take it. Especially in a city like New York, they can easily move to Connecticut. They can move other places right around there. They don't have to stay in New York City. They don't have to live in New York City. They can go anywhere else. So I don't think that's going to work out too well for New York, to be honest with you. I really don't. Also, he's talking about freezing rents, which is good theory. I understand why people don't want to see their rents go up. I get it. But at the same time, he's going to be probably raising property taxes. I bet he's going to be trying to raise property taxes while not allowing the property owner to raise rent. And it's like, that's not going to work. They have to be able to recoup their costs. It doesn't make much sense, and they always point to, oh, look at Norway, look at Sweden. I hate to break it to y'all. Most of Europe, including Scandinavia, are capitalist countries. They do have more social safety nets than we have, but they're still capitalist systems over there. They're not communist. Even China these days is not even really. They have we always call it the Chinese Communist Party, but they're using capitalism, although it's kind of a hybrid in China because the government basically controls everything over there, including the corporations and everything else. So it's kind of a hybrid in China, but Europe is firmly capitalist. It's just, they have chosen they have chosen to pay higher taxes in these European countries and have the government cover other things for them, like healthcare and things like that. The healthcare thing, here in the United States, healthcare is so expensive. People think it's the insurance companies. It's not the problem is not the insurance companies. I mean, people want to point to the insurance companies. Sure, that's part of it. That's part of the cost. That's not where the bulk of it's coming from, people. It's the cost of the healthcare itself. I remember I worked for Blue Cross Blue Shield of North Carolina back in 2005, somewhere in that ballpark, way back in the 2000s. Maybe it may have been before that. And their stated goal was to have a 6% profit margin. That was the company's goal, was to have 6% profit margin. They didn't always hit that. That was just their goal. So, and I saw the bills. I saw the medical bills that were coming through. I mean, that's where the cost is. It's the cost from the hospitals, the emergency rooms, the anesthesiologists, the doctors, the surgeons, hundreds of thousands of dollar bills. So you can blame the insurance companies, but they're not knocking it out of the ballpark the way people think they are. So anyway, that's just the way things are. If we went, the thing for me, it's like if we went to the healthcare system that they have in Europe, I see a number of problems with that here in the United States that they don't have in Europe. In Europe, people are used to that system. And I hate to say this, but I'm going to say it anyway. Europeans, generally speaking, are a little bit more well-behaved than Americans are. And I just know that if you went to a system like this here in the United States, people would be showing up at the emergency room with sniffles. They would be showing there. I mean, I just know how this is going to go. Americans would be showing up at the emergency room wanting to be seen by a doctor because for any little sniffle that they got, and I know that's how Americans would respond with that. It would be that way at least for a while, for several years it would be like that until it became more normal. And I think that might dissipate. But for the first few years, that's the way it's going to go. Americans are going to show up at the emergency room anytime they have a common cold. And it's just, Europeans don't do that. They'll usually just go to the pharmacy there on the corner and get what they need and go home and treat themselves. But that's not what Americans are going to do, and I already know it. So, anyway, So, anyway, but back to the personal finance thing. I've been thinking about this a little bit today. I'm going to start doing a few different episodes about different topics in personal finance. Today, I just wanted to really talk about the importance of budgeting, really knowing where your money's going. You need to go through your online bank account and look at everything you've spent and see where you could cut. I've trimmed back pretty good with my spending. I could still do a little bit better. I have my hobbies, and sometimes I spend a little bit. I get a little spendy on my hobbies. The other day, I went to the coin shop and dropped $40 or $50 at the coin shop, and I didn't really need to do that, but I did it. The good thing is I got an ounce of silver, so kind of an investment piece. I got it was actually a Morgan silver dollar, an old one, so it's not really a full ounce of silver, I don't think, but it's still pretty cool. And I got another coin too. Anyway, but that was a little spendy. It was something I didn't need to spend, and I'm working on trying to control my impulse buying. So it's important to get that under control. For those of you who might be doing things like playing lotteries, buying lottery tickets, you're gonna have to cut that out. I did that for a time, and I'm gonna be honest with you. I lived in Florida for a while, and I've lived here in North Carolina. I had better luck with the Florida lottery than I did in North Carolina. North Carolina, I just don't have any luck at all with our lottery. Florida actually won some pretty good, on the scratch-offs. I actually won a pretty good healthy sum a couple times. I seem to have a little bit better luck down there. But, I still, when I think about it, how much money I've probably spent on scratch-offs and how much I've won, the house always wins. The house always wins. So you're going to lose money over time. Now, buying a lottery ticket here and there for entertainment purposes, fine, but I wouldn't make it a routine thing, especially if you're struggling financially. If you're struggling financially, anytime you have the impulse to go buy a lottery ticket, take the $10, the $20, whatever you're going to spend, and put it right over into your savings account and let that build. And it doesn't take long. Even if you just ran DoorDashes, if you just ran a DoorDash, 2 DoorDashes an evening, you could make an extra $15 to $20 a day. Put that in the bank and just let that build. In a month, if you do $20 a day door dashing and you put that money directly into your savings account, that's $600 in a month that you're putting into your bank account, into your savings. Now, you're going to spend a little bit more on gas for the driving for that. So, say you take $100 of that to pay extra on your gas. That still leaves you $500 that you've put into savings in that month. I'm just saying. And that's just running 2 dashes, typically about 2 dashes, maybe 2 to 3 dashes an evening. It would probably take you an hour, hour and a half at most. I've been using DoorDash, and my goal, I do more than that. I'm doing 400 a week, $400 a week, is my goal. I've got that money allocated. I'm putting $50 a week towards principal on my auto loan, so that's an extra $200 a month on top of my normal car payment. I'm putting $100 a week into savings. And then I'm putting a 75 over into my kids' accounts. And what else? The rest of it goes to cash flow. It goes to help pay for the gas and things. So it's turning out pretty well, you know. It works pretty well for me. I'm putting $100 a week in savings. That's over $5,000 a year that I can put into savings doing that. And just keeping at it, you know, and you can't focus on the weekly number. You have to just focus on that daily. Okay, this is my daily goal. I'm going to hit this number before I go home for the evening, and that's what I do. And I hit it, and I go home, and it's working out pretty well. Anyway, so the message for today: go through your budget. Look for things that you can cut out. Look for ways to save money. Watch the electric usage in your residence. Watch, see if there's things that you can substitute in terms of food that might be able to lower your food bill. I have to say, I went to the grocery store tonight. I had 3 bags of groceries. It only cost me $25. I was a little surprised. I was like, that's not too bad. For 3 plastic bags of groceries. I mean, that was actually fairly reasonable. It was like I bought milk, but I buy the organic milk, so I had a half gallon of milk for $5. It's like $10 a gallon for organic milk. It's like, good gracious, people. I'm trying to avoid the regular milk though, because all the hormones and stuff they put into it. So I get organic milk. I got some bananas. I got, what else did I buy? I bought a couple bags of frozen vegetables. I bought some baked potatoes. And what else? Oh, I bought a box of ice cream. I shouldn't have bought the ice cream. That was yeah, I just it had the 3 little ice cream. It was the Haagen-Dazs, there was 3 things in there. And that was $4. It was on sale for $4, so I didn't feel too bad about it. I can't remember what else I bought. Anyway, so I didn't buy any meat. If I bought meat, it would have been a little bit more expensive, things like that. But I already had some meat stocked up, so I didn't really need to. Anyway, look for deals. Look for any way you can save money, cut costs that you don't absolutely need right now. And next time I'm going to talk to you a little bit about, I think my next scheduled conversation is a little bit about what to do once you have your savings set aside. Where should you put your savings? I think there's some good accounts out there that pay healthy interest rates on your emergency cash. So I think you should. Well, I'll get more into this next time. I'll talk about that. But anyway, y'all have a good evening. I think I've talked long enough. I'm getting ready to go to bed. I'm tired. It's been a long day. My boss is going to be out of the office tomorrow, so it should be a relatively quiet day. I've still got things to do, of course, at work, but I can kind of get caught up on some things that I've kind of put on the back burner. Anyway, you guys have a great evening. Don Pelayo. Oh, did y'all check out my shirt? Caminito del Rey. I hiked that back in 2018. It is a hike. It is a hike near Malaga, Spain. It's a famous hike there. It used to be called the world's most dangerous walk. It's not anymore. They did some upgrades to it, and children go and hike this now. So it's very safe now. But I highly recommend it. It's only about like a 3 or 4 mile hike, something like that. And it's good views and everything. It's pretty cool. So anyway, but it's in southern Spain, so I it's not quite the Camino de Santiago, but it's still a cool thing that I have to say that I did. And anyway, y'all have a good evening. Don Pelayo checking out.